The 16th volume of the Treasury of Precious Instructions comes after Kongtrul's collection of works from the lineages of the 8 chariots, the so-called 8 chariots, which make up the first 15 volumes. And so he entitled it Nutsok Tree, meaning sort of miscellaneous instructions. The whole point of the Dangatze was to preserve lineages which were in danger of getting lost. And in this 16th volume, he continues that aim by particularly preserving the lineage of a Mahasiddha called Mitrayogin. He wasn't one of the 84 siddhas that had been mentioned in Abhayadatta's, isn't it? Abhayadatta's sort of biographies of the 84 Mahasiddhas, because he was a little bit later. He lived at the end of the 12th century on into the 13th century. But Kongtrul at one point refers to him as the 85th Siddha, and he clearly had great admiration for him. And he was one of perhaps the only Mahasiddha of those Indian Mahasiddhas to actually visit Tibet. For he stayed in Tibet for about 1.5 years and left a number of practices which Jamgon Kongtrul and Khyentse Wangpo clearly wished to preserve. So Mitrayogin was actually invited to Tibet by Tropu Lotsawa from Tropu Monastery, now a monastery which is completely ruined, not recently, but over time ceased to have any activity. And the most important work in this volume, perhaps, is a teaching called Finding Rest in the Nature of the Mind. That's exactly the same title as Longchenpa's Semying, but completely different. It was teaching that Avalokiteshvara gave to Mitrayogin on the nature of the mind. Is a Mahamudra teaching after Mitrayogin had been practicing his sadhana for something like 12 years, and then he had a vision of Avalokiteshvara. He also had visions of other deities, and their particular sadhanas or teachings are included in the volume as well. Only one of them actually has a sadhana text, and that's the sadhana of Avalokiteshvara. The others are just the teachings on those sadhanas, and I'm not quite sure how they can be practiced, whether one has to extract portions of the Avalokiteshvara sadhana and adapt them accordingly. But these obviously were in danger of getting lost and have been included. There are a number of other teachings of Mitrayogin, quite short texts, again on Mahamudra, which are very inspiring. The beginning, or the earlier part of the volume, it was also about other Mahasiddhas, the 84 in fact. There's a sadhana in which one sort of makes offerings to one, venerates these 84 Mahasiddhas. And then an interesting sadhana, which is so basically modular. Although the actual text is a sadhana on, if I remember right, Kesalaha, one can adapt sections of it to whichever Mahasiddha one likes, including Mahasiddhas who aren't mentioned by Avyadatta, but were teachers of Tavanata. And it's a sort of almost make your own pizza thing. You can just adjust the ingredients to whatever you particularly want to practice. And the whole volume itself begins with a Lama Chota, sort of a veneration offering to the Lama, or in this case, the Lamas, the masters of the 8 chariots, starting with Guru Padmasambhava, who takes up the central of the center of a lotus in the visualization, and on the remaining 8 petals are the 7 masters of the lineages of the other chariots. That, of course, leaves 1 petal extra, and it's Mitrayogin himself that Jamgon Kongtrul, who composed this particular sadhana, places on this petal. And so that's a rather logical sort of conclusion, as it were, to the first 15 volumes and the beginning to this 16th volume. So one can hope that these particular lineages will be continued by this publication of the Dangatsa, and that there will be teachers who can continue to propagate them. There is one other text, a teaching that the Mahasiddhas gave to what was she? She was some sort of spirit, who then became a Dakini. And it's quite interesting because she gets, she's very badly burnt by a competing spirit. And to heal her wounds, she takes, so she's treated, as it were, by the Mahasiddhas who happen to have sort of gathered in the cemetery for a particular Gana Chakra, and they heal her by giving her Mahamudra teachings, which she doesn't understand at all at the beginning. She complains that she hasn't understood a word. But finally it all sinks in, and she's been burnt down to the bone, but it all heals, and she becomes a teacher. I think it's Naropa who she meets and tells him that he should go and meet Tilopa. I may have forgotten all these details, but it's quite a nice little story. And of course, at the end, once the story gets going, there are all these extraordinary teachings of the Mahasiddhas. That the last few bits of that teaching are so difficult to translate. There's no commentary on them, in fact, that one can only guess actually at what they were saying. So that's this very interesting, seemingly miscellaneous collection, but very much something that Kongtrul Rinpoche clearly wanted to keep preserved.